everyone, it's Will Curran from Endless Events, and I am joined by Courtney Lohmann. Courtney is the Director of Culture at PRA, which is an absolutely fantastic company. There's so much awesome stuff coming, but you are very, very passionate about sustainability, and we've been talking a lot about that on this stage, and we want to unpack it and start talking things that people can do, actions that we can take, and you and I were kind of talking about this, that a lot of people are looking, how can we implement this into our strategy? So I think you have tons of awesome tips that we can implement today.
You have picked one of my favorite topics. Thank you so much. And thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here and to spread the good word on sustainability and how we can become more strategic. You've summed it up perfectly. We've talked enough. We're talked out. Let's start implementing, let's start taking action, and let's start to figure out how we can all do this together, right? That's where we really need to be going. So from a strategic standpoint, what does that look like, and what do our next steps need to be? I think the most important piece right now is that we, at a corporate level, all of us need to take accountability and put into place our own internal strategic action plan for how we are going to operate our businesses sustainably. And if we can start to take that step, we're going to start to see change on a radical level spread throughout the industry.
I like it. So I'd love to dive into how someone, me, you, anyone can start to implement this plan and the first steps that they can take. So
absolutely.
So what's the first thing that I should do?
The first thing you should do is you need to take a pulse on what your internal corporate culture is. And so oftentimes when people are talking about sustainability, we're always talking about how is it seen outwardly at the event itself, when really where we need to begin to really implement change is internally with our own culture. So how do you engage the stakeholders within your organization? How do you talk to them about what we can do from a strategic standpoint to change the operation of the company? That's where you want to begin.
And what does that conversation look like? Is it saying things like, hey, what do we believe in when it comes to sustainability? What does that kind of look like, that conversation?
Well, I honestly think it's bigger even than just sustainability. It's what do we believe in and what do we want to stand for? You know, how do we see ourselves in the greater landscape of the industry itself, and how can we affect change through things like corporate social responsibility and sustainability and our communities that we're planning events in, right? And so there's a lot of different issues that are out there that sort of fall under the umbrella of sustainability. Human trafficking is a great issue. That falls more on the social and community side of what we do as an industry. And if your organization is maybe passionate about changing lives, well then that might be a really good issue that you can get behind as a whole organization. And just as an example, that is something that PRA has taken and owned, and we have actually trained the majority of our staff to look for the signs of human trafficking as we're on site at events. That's one of the things that when we sat down and addressed what is it that our company stands for, that we wanted to say we're going to stand against this practice of human trafficking and we are going to affect how it changes within our industry.
I love it. And it almost sounds like, too, like, know your strengths and like focus on something, too.
Absolutely.
Don't try to do everything. You can't try to do everything 100%. So we've kind of focused on internally what our culture is for this and what's our focus. Then what's the next step?
Next steps would be trying to probably create what your action plan can be from there. And I think that the next step action plan is what are you doing in your office? How is your office handling their own internal sustainability? How are you engaging with your employees, and how are you teaching them about change with sustainability and how that drives the business forward? How is that going to change the way you're operating business then outwardly to your clients, and how does that positively affect everyone? Sustainability is not a dirty word from the standpoint of, oh, how is that going to affect our bottom line? It's actually good for your business from a bottom line standpoint. And so talk about how it's going to affect that. Explain to your team how you're going to move forward with it and how the company is going to grow because of it.
Ooh, I like it. And I probably might already know the answer to this, but what sort of things can we look for to put into that action plan? I feel like everyone's always looking for a template, and I know there's no template, but is there any things that you think are key that people need to be including in their action plan?
Key in what way? I guess maybe
which ones do you think that?
Broad.
Yeah, I guess what do you feel is like an absolute must-have?
Oh, from an action plan standpoint?
Like, does it have, like, for example, we kind of talked a little bit about, like, one of the easiest things that we can do today is communicate to our attendees, for example, at our events, about single-use plastics. So that might be like something about, like, really focusing on communication standards. What are sort of things you think are part of that action plan?
Buy-in. I think how well, from an internal standpoint, I'm still talking internally on our strategic plan, right?
Absolutely.
From an internal standpoint, it's really ensuring that you have total employee buy-in, because you can't really push the plan outward to a client or then an attendee without that strong internal buy-in. And that starts at the top. You have to have your leadership involved fully in what that plan is for your strategy and your then implementation. And then how do you affect that communication down and get buy-in to every level of the company? You know, when we look at PRA, for example, and we're really starting our journey right now, and we have buy-in at the top level, and so now we're down to the next step, and we're saying, okay, we have 28 offices across the U.S. We have a lot of people to engage. We have, I think it's almost 300 employees. Those are so many people that have to have the same buy-in. And when you talk about an issue with sustainability, there are so many differences with sustainability that happen on a regional level that everyone's abilities to participate may be slightly different. And so you have to craft buy-in so that it makes sense for everyone across the entire brand. And so you have to have nice strategic goals that everyone feels like they can participate in, while also challenging people to do more.
Ooh, I love it. I love it. And I know we've had this action plan put together, and I know it because we mentioned a little bit about how it pushes our buttons when we say how everyone's like talking about how can we take action next. But obviously once you have that buy-in, you have the action plan. What do you think is the just do it that's missing in our industry that's keeping us from implementing these action plans and these strategic plans?
I actually led a presentation earlier this week, and it was getting started with sustainable events. And we started the entire session with, what is the biggest roadblock? Why haven't you implemented sustainability? And almost the entire group, there were probably about 40 to 45 people there, almost everyone said cost.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I think, again, internally, when you're developing your strategic plan, one of the most important things to look at and address is why this is good for business. And understanding how business can change because of sustainability and why it changes in a positive way. That is going to be different across the board for every single industry. There is no specific, oh yes, this is what every industry or every piece of our industry can do that is going to be the same or affect in the same way from a cost standpoint or from a this is good for business standpoint. But at the root of all of it is you need to identify what that means for you, and you need to then implement that so that everyone sees it moving forward. You know, it's about creating efficiencies for your team, right? Everyone wants to be more efficient and spend less time on what they're doing, and everyone wants to ensure that profits stay positive and are growing, correct? Sustainability can be very good for both of those things, and so that buy-in and understanding and setting those goals that relate back to those two things really help drive it forward.
I love it. I love it. I love how you tie it all back together to the cost. That definitely is a big concern from everybody. One last time, is there any other things that you think our audience needs to know about when it comes to this sort of thing that I'm missing?
From a strategic standpoint?
Yeah, anything at all.
Absolutely get started. I am so about just get started. If you have a passion for sustainability internally at your place of employment, start having that conversation and be the champion. Take that on. Say, I want to be the leader of our sustainability team or our green team or our environmental team. Whatever term sort of speaks to your passion, take that passion, move it forward. You are going to find that it is so fulfilling from a career standpoint and from a personal standpoint that your passion will help drive it forward.
I love it. I love it. So you heard it here first. Just do it. Go out there. Go do something and make some action.
Yes.
Courtney, thank you so much for being on today. It's so fantastic.
So much for having
So many
me.
good tips. Go out there and do it. take some action, and we'll see you guys on the next one.